So you're welcome to this video. So in this video we are going to learn what React component is. In our previous video we learned about what is React environment, what is SPA. So this is a continuation of that video. So React components React components are independent and reusable bits of code. They serve the same purpose as JavaScript functions, but work in isolation and return HTML. So that is what a React component is. It returns HTML and it is a reusable bit of code, and they are like JavaScript function. Components come in two types: class components and function components. Functional components is fast replacing class components. And why is that so? Because of hooks, which makes functional component to update state. Now a component name must start with a capital letter. So that is another rule that we are learning now. Earlier we learned about 5 rules of JSX. So this one is another rule that you should not forget. A component name must start with a capital letter. Now this is an example of a function here. So we have, I believe you are familiar with this. So this is a function keyword, car, but because it's a React component, it must start with what? A capital letter. Then a function returns HTML, so it's returning HTML. So how do you use this component? Well, if it was in vanilla JavaScript, we just call the car and invoke it like this. But that is not how we do that in React. In React, you call a component the way you use a self-closing tag. So car in an angle bracket, then sorry, you have your component name and slash, you close the angle bracket, just the way you call a self-closing tag. That is the way you call a component. Now React to take care of that, of what is remaining. So that is how a component looks like. Now components can receive prop, and you can have a component inside a component. So let's demo this and see. So I'll go to my source folder. I'm going to create a new folder called components. Then inside this I'm going to create a car component, car.jss. now if you're creating a component, you can use .js or .jss, but when you're using React with Vite just enforces you to use JSS. If you use JS, you have some unwanted errors. So if we want to bring out a template for a component, then we should use a shortcut called RAFCE. Now remember, we installed an extension called ES7 React Snippet. So when we type RAFCE, then click that, it will generate this for us. So which can save some time, meaning you don't have to memorize this. So this is how we've created a component. Now remember, I started with a capital letter, and that is why this React snippet generated a component with what? A capital letter for me. So how do I use this component, or how do I call it? So I'm going to, so first of all, let's preview this and see how it looks like on the browser. So this is what we did yesterday, and this will stop. So if I come below it here and call it, so So there are two ways you can call a component. So let me show you the manual ways. So to do that, I have to do my import, then car from. So just like an image, you have to load the path to the car component. So dot and forward slash. So let's see, assets. That is my asset. Dot and forward slash component, then slash car. So now that we've imported the component, we can now use it. So I can come here and type my car. Remember this, and if I save that, React will not find at you and it will be good. So you see I'm seeing car. So that means anything if I come inside this my car component and add something, it will just automatically refresh. So let me say H2. I say this is my car. So if I save this now, notice if I go back to the browser, I'm saying this is my car. So that is how we create a component. So let's do another one just to get the experience again. So let's create another one called, so another one called bottle. So bottle should start with capital letter .jsx. Remember, then to bring out the component snippet, just type your ROAFCE. So when it shows you like this, just click, then you have this. So you save. So how do we use this component? Again, we can come inside our app.js or whatever component you want to call it. Now if I call this bottle component inside my car component, I'm going to see it in my app, because remember our app is our window to the world. So whatever you want to be shown on your browser should pass to the app component. So because this car component is already called in our app component, we can do that, but I'll leave that for you to test when you're practicing. So bottle. So now, earlier I showed you the manual way. First of all manually import this, then before you use it here. So you can have automatic import by beginning to type. So I'll have this here, bottle. So bottle. Now if you wait a little, you notice that your VS Code IntelliSense knows what you're typing. So you can hit what, enter. So you see it automatically imports that for you. So slash this. So if I do that now, I'm going to have this. So bottle. So that is it about components, at least how to create a component. Now one last thing, just an introduction to our next slide. So I will move this again. I will say H2 I am ever bottle. So if I save this now, you see I'll see I am ever bottle. Now let's say, what if I want to make this dynamic? So remember, from what we just learned, a function is a usable bit of code that returns HTML. So let's say I want to split this into two. So you see that to just copy the same code twice. So I am ever bottle. So what if I want to change this to I am cook bottle, or I am this bottle, I am that bottle? So that leads us to our next slide, which is this React props. Now props are arguments passed into React components. React props are like function arguments. So that sounds familiar. Remember in our vanilla JavaScript we learned about how to create a function that is dynamic by using props. So React props are like function arguments in JavaScript and attributes in HTML. Now to send props into a component, use the same syntax as HTML attributes. So I have my car, so we've already done this. Brand equal to Ford. Now remember, when we want to give add an ID, a class to a HTML tag, what do? We say class, for example, equal to Ford. So you see, that's what it says is like HTML attribute. So prop stands for properties. To use a prop in a component, use props dot prop name, or you destructure the prop names. So I'm going to show you both. But note that props values can be a string, number, boolean, array, object, or functions, and you see me using all of this as we progress in this course. So let me show you how to pass props now. So I want to pass a prop of name equal to let's say cook. So if I save that does not mean it will just automatically refresh. No, I have to use it. So I'll go to my bottle, then I'll put in props here. Props. Now this must be props. You don't have to use any name. I don't think you have to use any name, but just use props. Okay, so now to use that, remember that here is our JS environment. Outside here is our JS environment, but when we are inside this returning div, we are in JSX. So to enter JavaScript when you are inside JS environment, remember from the previous video, you will use a curly bracket. So I'll put props. So now I'm now in JavaScript environment, props dot name, because that is name that I pass. Now it's like you are waving something from point A to point B. Of course, you need to, the web has to needs a name, a phone number, and some details that the person you're sending it to can use to collect it, or they can use it to web it to the right person. So when you send a prop like this, you need to like welcome it, or you need to, somebody has to claim it before it to start working. So that's what we are doing here. So this is the props. So that you can send so many props, but you say I just want the name prop. So if I do this now, notice I'll have I am Coke bottle, but see the other one that didn't have any name prop, it's just showing I am bottle. So let's now make it dynamic or handle the error. So I'll say if name.props exists, show props.name, else it should just show ever. So if I do that, notice what we have now. The first one will show me I am Coke bottle. The next one will show me that I am ever bottle. So you see that. So that is all about props. Now the next method I want to show you is the destructuring. Now instead of using this dot props dot this, destructuring is like you open your fridge or your freezer and you have so many things. You want to drink water, you want to lick banana, you want to drink Hollandia. So you just need to drink one at a time. So what do? You take one and maybe you open and drink, if it's the one that you can drink like that. So that is what destructuring is. You are taking one or two from a whole. So you're not taking the whole, just take one or two from a whole. So we want to destructure a name, so we'll use our curly bracket here. So that means we can get rid of these props here. So you notice if I save, we still have the same result. There's no. So I find this method very, very useful, and I think you find it very, very useful too and simpler. So let's send another prop. So let's send price prop. So price, what if we want to know the price of this Coke? So price. So I will just put 10. So of course we have to use it here. So I'll come back here and put a comma. Remember, this is an object. Price. So I am ever bottle. Then you can get me, oh not men, for just, so for just how much? So let's say, remember, let's handle the error. So for just, so okay, let's add the dollars. So for just, so we're going to have, if there's a price, so of course use your price, else use return 1. So let's see what that looks like now. So if I save this, that is what it will show me. I am Coke bottle, you can get me for just $10 because there is past 10, but I am ever bottle, you can get me for just $1. So that is how props looks like. So prop, just like in function, they make your components dynamic. So that means if you're reusing it, they will have different output based on the prop you pass. So that is it about a component and prop. So let's move to the next, which is React event. Just a moment, let me clear my throat. So we have our React events. So React events are written in camel case syntax, on click instead of on click. So please notice this instead of this. Now React event handlers are written inside curly braces. So you have on click shoot instead of on click shoot. So let's try this. Now earlier in our vanilla JavaScript we learned about so many types of events. So we have the click event, we have the submit event, we have the double click, we have the key up, the key down, we have the mouse in, mouse out. So let's use some of them. So let's say in our bottle component now, we now want let's say the user wants to buy. So we have a button, let's say buy. So if the person doesn't want to buy, let's say book. So buy now. So we have buy now, and let's say for later. So let's see that. So if I save this now, notice we have buy now and save for later. So what I'm going to do here, so we want to add if I click this, something should happen, like a prompt. You will be redirected to the checkout page or something like that. Okay, then if we click this, then added to how do I put that in? So added to, so just receive an alert that says added to your favorite. Yes, so let's do that. So how do we add a click event to this? So we'll go back to our button here. So we say on click, then we'll have our function here. So there are two ways. I will show you what two ways. So you have the first one, we use our anonymous function and you put handle by. So I will have to invoke that. Then I'll come into my JS environment and I'll put function. So the handle there is just a naming convention, doesn't mean you have to put handle by. So I'll just put an alert. So let's not make it complex. So please wait. We redirect you to the checkout page. So that is what will happen when we click that. So let's test that. So if I go to my browser and I click buy, so you see that. So please, there is now display with extra H, but you see that works. So you see, but if I click on this, you see nothing happens. So you see, so we can also test out other event listeners. So we can have a on double click. So notice if I just come here and click, nothing happens, but only when I double tap. So if I click once and wait, after some time click again, you see the count stop. So when the click is in sequence 1 2, so you see that works. So see how easy it is to add an event listener. There's no document or this, you target first and you do that. So this method of adding event listener is like the HTML event which I showed you earlier. So it's kind of easy. Okay, so we've done that. So let's leave here at on click. Then the next thing that I want to do is when the user clicks on this, so we can leave here at on click too. So we'll put handle save. So notice this is another method. So we can also use arrow function. So let handle save be equal to alert product added to your favorite lists. So let's see what happens. So notice this is a method, this is another method, but they do the same thing. So let's see what happens. So if I click here, notice product, I went to spell project. So but you get the point. So it has been added to your favorite list. So that is how we add event listeners. Very easy. So as we go forward, we'll add some other event listeners, but this is how we do that. So the next thing we want to learn today is styling a component with CSS or Sass. So when you're styling with your CSS, you have two ways of doing that, or let's you have two ways of doing that. So the first one is you can do that with your inline CSS. You can also do that with your external CSS. So let's learn about this. Inline CSS is almost similar to the way we write inline CSS in our HTML, but only that we need to enter the JavaScript environment and our CSS must be in an object. So you see double curly bracket. If you don't add that, then you have an error. So let's add that. So I'm going to go to my code. So let's say I want to add that here. So I'll put style, I'll put my bracket again. So color should be red, and notice this must be in string red. Then you can add more things. You can add background color. You can add that to be gray. So let's leave it at there, at that. So let's see what that looks like. So you see I have this now. So that is how easy it is to add inline CSS. But what about the other type of CSS, which is, now if you decide you can put all of this inside an object and add, it's still the same thing, but because inline CSS is not mostly encouraged, so I will not go through this. So external CSS, just like our normal external CSS in our vanilla, we have the type of CSS. Now in our external CSS in our HTML, I told you that we should avoid using global selector. Like you want to select a p tag, now just say p. So except you want all your p tag to have the same styling. But if you want to restrict it to a particular section of your web page, then you should have a parent that will separate that. So you can say my blog section 1 space p. So only the p tag in your blog section 1 will only have that styling. Other p tag will need their own styling, or yes, we need their own styling. So you notice that's why you say this external CSS is unrestricted global CSS and can conflict. So I'll just show you a demo of that. Then we'll now see how can you use CSS module to solve that issue. So let's go back to, so you notice I have a bottle component here and I have a car component, and thankfully they are sharing the same tag, which is h2. So I'll go to my component, create a CSS called bottle. So bottle dot CSS. So I'm just quickly going to add h2. Should have a color. Of, but I'll just add a p tag there so that we'll leave the inline CSS. So a p tag of color red. So it's just a simple test. Then we'll create another one. We'll select that be the car.css. .css, then another p tag here. I will say color should be blue. So let's save this. Now you notice if I save this, of course there will be no effect because we have not linked it. So how do we link our external CSS in React? So first of all, I'll go to my car component. So I'm going to use import. So don't use the link quote, you load your CSS. So ./, then you can have your car.css. So that is how we do that. So notice if I save now to my browser, you notice I don't have a p tag. So let's add a p tag. So let's just add p lorem 5. Hit enter. So let me go to my bottle component and do the same. So immediately after the h2, so I'll have my p lorem 5. So if I do that, come to my browser, you notice I'm seeing it's all blue. 1, 2, 3. So how do we solve that issue? So let's go back to our bottle component. So let's call it CSS. So import .bottle.css.scss.css. So if I do that, notice what I get. I'll get here red. So it's now red. So you see the conflict. So how do we solve this issue? How do we solve this issue? So let's see in our car.css we have our p tag. Then in our bottle.css we have the same p tag but different color. So how do we make this restricted instead of unrestricted, so anybody can just subscribe to it? So as long as there exists a p tag in any component that you're calling in your app component, they will all have the same styling. In fact, the one that has the higher specificity or the one that is the latest is the one that's going to show. So how do we prevent that from working? So just the way we do in our normal vanilla CSS, all I need to do is to come here and give this an ID. Remember, an ID has a higher specificity. So I'll give this an ID of car. Then what I'm going to do now is go to my car.css. So instead of just writing a normal p, so I'm going to put a hash car space p. So this means that only the p tag that exists in my car component will have this color of blue. So that means it is no longer unrestricted, it is not restricted. So if I go back, see I have that the color for the car text is what? Blue. Then what about this? So I'll also do the same thing for the bottle. So I'll come to the bottle, give it an ID here, ID equal to bottle. Then I'll go to my bottle.css and do the same thing. So my hash bottle space. So this have solved that problem, and notice everything is at peace. So there is no longer a CSS conflict. But there's another way we can solve this without using this. without using if we don't want to use this method, we can use the CSS module. So let's look at the CSS module. So in the CSS module is restricted global CSS, and there is no conflict. CSS modules are convenient for components that are placed in separate files. The CSS inside a module is available only for the component that's imported it, and you do not have to worry about name conflict. So let's create the CSS module with the .module.css. so whatever name of your CSS you give it, but it must end with this format, .module.css extension. An example, my style.module.css. Then to importing and using a CSS module, so you have your import style from like this. So what you will be using is styles, then return this. So in place of your style, just use your class name dot big blue. So that will be that. So let us see how we do that. Sorry, let me clear my nose. So let's see how we do that. So let's go over to, so I'm going to create a new style. Just put it global dot module .css. So that's the format. So this is any CSS I want to style. So let's say there's a certain way I want my button to behave, or let's say my h3. So I'll just put dot h3. So it should use a class. Then let's say font size should be 3, view width, then color should be, let's use dark, this, then font style should be italics. So let's say we have this basic styling. So how do I use it in my car component? So if I come here, I have the h3, then I'll have, this is heading 3, then I'll have a paragraph. So P lorem 20. So Alt Z to break that. So if I save this now, you notice everything will look like the same, but just see the extra paragraph, but the heading 3 is not styled the way it should start. So I will come here now, because I use dot, I have to use a class. So class name. So I need to import my global CSS here. So I will say import style from so dot and / global module .css. So I now have that. So what I will now do here now is I'll now put my styles .h3. So because I have my h3 there, so if I save that, I'm going to, if I go to my browser, I'll have this styling. So you see, it has worked. So even though I come to my bottle component now and have the same code, so let me have another h3 here. So h3, this is heading 3, and let me have some p tags. So p tags, so lorem 20. So notice if I save, the styling does not jump from here to here. So if I want to use that, I'll still use the same process. I have to import the heading 3, then use that here before it will work. So that is just the principle of that. So I can also have a h4. So let's do another one. So I can also add a h4. So .h4. So just a similar styling. So shift alt arrow down. So but I want this to be to view it. Color should be purple. So that is it. So if you want that for your button, for any stuff, you just have to do that. So I'll come to my bottle component. So let's say I want to use my proper CSS there. So import style. So if you want to use styles, import styles, or you can decide to use global. So anything you want to use is equal to strong. So I put I think this should be dot forward global dot module dot css. Now if you try with this global, it doesn't work, change to style. So that is how you understand why you should use a certain program. So let's change this to h4 because we don't have a h4 here. So I've changed that. So let's now add this. So class. So class name, remember. Then remove this. So global dot h4. So let's see how that works. So let's see if we have that. And you see it works. So that is how we will do that. So you notice that this CSS module does not cause conflict, but if you want to use the normal external CSS, you must use your descendant selector if you must avoid conflict. So that is how we work with the CSS in our React. Now in the next video I'm going to show you how you can work with your SAS. So let's do that.